Next, BookTV attended a book launch party for syndicated columnist Armstrong Williams for his latest title, Reawakening Virtues, Restoring What Makes America Great. Mr. Williams greeted guests and signed his book at the party held in Washington, D.C.
BookTV is at the Washington, D.C. home of Marty and Grace Bender, where a book party for author and columnist Armstrong Williams is being held. Mr. Williams' latest book is called Reawakening Virtues, Restoring What Makes America Great. Armstrong Williams, why'd you write this book?
You know, many people remember back in 2000 and No Child Left Behind, when I was almost left behind, financially, emotionally, relationship-wise. And I'll never forget a friend of mine from New York, Mr. Doley, who was an ambassador, called me on the phone and that people were saying that I would be no more than a footnote. No one would ever carry my column. They would never see my face on television again, and that I was doomed. I don't have to recall the details of No Child Left Behind, but I used bad judgment, and I accept the responsibility for the bad judgment. But you know, just because you use bad judgment and accept responsibility for it, you still have a price to pay. You pay a price when you do things that goes against the virtues and the values upon which you were reared. And so from 2004 to about 2008, I was in the valley, I was in the desert of life. And I was wondering if I would ever have my way of life back again, would I ever be a media presence again? And then I realized there was one particular morning, I was lying in bed and a light just flickered. And it was if after 4 years, I had reawakened. And something just said, reawake your virtues, your values. It was just as clear as I'm standing here talking to you. Something's just go back to the root, go back to the beginning. So I had to reawaken the value of truth and honesty and integrity. I had to reawaken the values of physiology of success. I mean, getting back to the gym, working out, taking care of my health, making sure that I was in top physical shape. But then more importantly, I had to reawaken the values of whether I wanted to be a journalist or whether I wanted to be some hack for the Republican Party. And I decided that not only did I want to return to journalism, that my voice could return as a voice of integrity. I knew many people would question it. A lot of people would dismiss me. They would call me the $240,000 man. I lost so much credibility, but I realized I wasn't doing it for anybody else anymore. It wasn't about anybody else. It was about me. It was about my truth and my getting grounded again. And so I started back going to church. I started by being alone with God, getting back to the kinds of things that my parents taught me about honesty, about trying to be good. And you know, sometimes being good, we say these things about being good, but it's not enough. You can't just say being good. You got to learn to live being good. And so it was because of this that I decided I needed to reawaken the virtues of my life to see if I could turn things around. And things started turning around. But really, I also realized in Reawakening Virtue that things were not as bad as I thought they were. That even though I was spending money on legal fees, even though I lost 80% of my business, I had managed my business well. I had managed my money well. I did not spend frivolously, that I did not have much overhead, and I did not have a lot of debt. So while I had people wanting to help me out financially, I said, no, I put myself in the storm, and I have to find a way to get myself out of the storm and return to the virtues that built what I had in the beginning. And so I realized that all had not been lost, which had been lost in me for about 3 or 4 years until I realized that I had to reawaken myself and get back to who I was.
All right, Armstrong Williams, put that on a macro level. How do you return that to America?
You know, America is in a financial crisis. America is in a debt crisis. If you, and many people just don't understand when we talk about the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling and our financial crunch reflects who we are as Americans. We spend more than we earn. We buy things that we cannot afford, and we don't want to make sacrifices. And so the United States has accumulated so much debt. It's gone from $10 trillion to $15 trillion over the last 2.5 years. We keep spending, and our revenues cannot keep up with it. We have to get back to fiscal responsibility. It's like having a credit card. If you max out on that credit card and you increase the debt on that credit card, and your interest rates are soaring, at some point, either you're going to have to pay that credit card off, you're going to have to find a way to restructure your debt, or you're going to go in bankrupt. You will become bankrupt. And so what we have to do is return to fiscal discipline. We have to turn to being responsible. You know, we get caught up in looking at television, all this materialism, but you know what? You should only buy that which you can afford. And a lot of this started with the toxic loans during the real estate, early real estate boom, where everybody thought that owning a home was a right as well as a privilege. You should only own a home that you can afford, because it's more than just buying a home. There's a lot of upkeep to that home that many people just don't realize. And instead of looking to the government, and yeah, the government is in a financial crisis, and yes, the government is on the verge of bankruptcy. In fact, we're the 800-pound gorilla in the room when we talk about Greece. It's the United States. But the only way that the United States is going to return to solvency, return to what people are accustomed to as the prosperity that we once had, the American people must get their financial house in order.
And finally, Armstrong Williams, who's New Chapter Publishing?
You know, New Chapter Publishing is out of Sarasota, Florida. Chris Angerman is my editor. This is important, New Chapter Publisher, because sometimes we invest so much in our opinions and our views, we don't even realize when we're biased. So I really wanted a liberal editor. I didn't want a conservative editor. I didn't want someone who felt and had the same views that I had. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted somebody to make me really defend what I believed in, because I was rethinking everything in my life. And so I met New Chapter Publisher. In fact, Larry Klayman, you know Larry Klayman, used to be with Judicial Watch, made the introduction. And Chris Angerman knew about my views. He felt we didn't have much in common. And when I told him the kind of book I wanted to write, Reawakening Virtues, he said, well, it can't be a political book. You can't just beat up on Democrats. You got to be able to criticize Republicans equally. He said, I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can be fair, because you've been doing what you've been doing for so long. And I must tell you, I didn't realize what a challenge it was for me to really think about the opinions that I had, the criticism I had, and how I was biased towards Republicans, that I did not hold them as accountable as I held Democrats. So the first 8 months was wrestling with myself, getting to the integrity and the virtue of writing an honest book where people could see this is fair, this is just, this is honest, this is balanced. And so Chris Angerman at New Chapter Publishing was a blessing for me, because what he did, he reawakened the integrity of my writing to be fair to both sides, not biased to any.
We're at a book party for Armstrong Williams. Reawakening Virtues, Restoring What Makes America Great is his latest. Go enjoy your party, Mr. Williams.
How you doing?
Ron Kessler. Good to
Ron,
see
oh,
you.
Ron, how you doing? You made it. You got my email.
Yeah,
oh, my God, Ron. How you doing?
I feel like that when I see
Oh,
him,
really?
too.
Oh, my God. You know, I was online, right? I was reading Ron's column. He did this. It was a very interesting piece about Juan and Delise.
Yeah.
Juan Williams. I was very intrigued by that article. And I was just reading it, because what happens, you know, sometimes, because when you write, I get stuck in reading things. And I kept reading and reading and reading. I never knew that story. Yeah. And so I said, oh my God, he's at Juan's book party. I said, I got to invite him to my book party. So I sent him an email. He never responded. So when he said, there he is. It's hard to write a book, though. Find the time. And then you always agonize. People want to read this. Is it right for the times?
Right.
You just got to let all that go.
So you started
Just right.
2 years
2 years ago. I started 2 years ago.
What precipitated it?
No Child Left Behind. It started in 2004. I needed the purge. There was so much I wanted to say. But then I realized in order to reclaim virtues, it starts with reclaiming yourself. Because you get lost. You know, I was looking for it with everybody else. Then once I had the premonition, no, it's within you. You got to reclaim your virtues. And once you reclaim your virtues, then you can start living again. This is our host, Marty Bender.
Hello, Marty. I'm sorry.
Take
Good to see you, sir.
So the book's doing well. Like, we're hearing all about it and everything.
Yes, I gotta
Even
make
people who don't like you like the book. They have to say that. Whoa.
Well, I didn't write a political book. I stayed away from politics. I strictly dealt with virtues. Financial virtues of capitalism, savings.
Right.
You got to stay away from politics. Do you know Ron Kessler?
Who?
Ron Kessler. He used to write for the Washington Post. He's the managing editor for Newsmax. That's right, Ron Kessler. Let me introduce you. Yeah.
Well,
Clyde told me you were coming, that you had confirmed.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So now where do you live?
I'm in New York, so I'll be at the New York book party as well.
Oh, you will?
Yeah.
Now, how do you know Clive?
He's my lawyer.
Oh, he's your lawyer?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Really? Yeah, he called to tell me, he said, be on the lookout. He's coming. I said, what's that surname?
Right.
So